What's up, guys? Doc here, and this is the Slightly Nocturnal Show. And today is December 7th, 2017. I'm joined with Bo Machado. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on? We're going to be anti-Hollywood tonight, and we're going to rock out without our cock out.
Indeed, indeed. So how's the week been going?
Oh, it's going pretty good.
Good
I
stuff.
ended up taking a day off, though, man. I ate unhealthy, like greasy pizza and stuff, and too much birthday cake. And so I had like a grease and sugar hangover. I couldn't get myself up and going this morning.
So, yeah, that's right. It was your birthday yesterday. Happy birthday to you.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you, sir.
So, let's just jump into it tonight. What do you want to talk about first?
What do you, our Franken's resignation without a definitive date?
So, when I was doing the show
I'm going to resign one day.
When I was doing the show notes, he hadn't resigned yet, and then I took a phone call with I was going to a meeting with a senator and a House representative today, and like right afterwards, they in the middle in the middle of the conversation, I was talking to one of their aides, and they had to get off the phone because I assumed that's what just happened. So.
Yep. In the coming weeks, I think that was the verbatim statement.
The coming weeks, that could mean when his term is over.
Well, that's what the non-definitive resignation.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm resigning at some point in the future.
Anyways, so he resigned, but he hasn't stepped down yet, right? So.
Right, and the governor supposedly has no clue who they're going to appoint because all this kind of happened so fast.
Maybe that's why he didn't just step away right away. So.
And kind of see how it shook out. And then I guess with the Republican Party and the Roy Moore stuff, and them kind of pointing fingers at the Democrats, saying the Democrats shouldn't be pointing fingers without Franken up there, that the Democrats kind of said, hey, we need you to take a bullet here and go ahead and step down before this is all determined.
So, but maybe not to, maybe so there's not an empty seat for a while because they don't know who they're going to appoint. Maybe that's why it's in the coming weeks. So.
Yeah, could be. I'm sad for the people of Minnesota and for the the people of the country, really, because I think Franken is a decent voice to have in there. But also sad for his victims and understand the rationale behind his stepping down. So.
Oh yeah, I think it's definitely time for him to step down. So.
Yeah. So, but I did want to send him a little message. I did want to say to Mr. Al Franken that no matter what, he's good enough, he's smart enough, and doggone it, people like him.
Gotta quit grabbing them boobs on planes. Gotta quit doing that.
Yes, and on USO tours and other places.
Quit making commercials holding teddy bears and diapers. That's fucking creepy as fuck, old man. So.
Yeah, that's it. That's odd. I agree.
I guess...
Unless it depends. I could see an old guy in a depend. Then it makes sense.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, that's what depends are for. They're for old dudes that are incontinent.
I hear you.
Get out of the Pampers commercials and get into the depend. Know your audience.
Know your audience. That's right. So then I guess the other big news right now is the LA fires. Fucking horrific looking pictures that I've seen. We send our best. Get to safety, folks. Do what you need to do. God damn, we're fucking sorry about that, though.
Yeah, I got family out there in Fullerton.
It looks like something out of a movie, just people rolling down the interstate at 25 miles an hour, and just looks like the world is burning in front of them. So.
It does. I agree. I saw a picture a day or two that Joe Rogan had put up, and I thought it was a fucking disaster film. It's
right.
Still, you know what I mean?
Right.
I didn't realize it was real life until I did a little research there. I was like, holy shit.
So I guess it was like 80 something square miles this morning when I looked at it. Now it's 150 square miles. The worst part about it is they're having like 70 to 80 mile an hour winds, which wind and fire like don't fucking mix. So, it's spreading.
Well, they mix too well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do mix. It's just a bad mixture. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's, people are losing power now because of it. I saw pictures of like Beverly Hills, and it just looks like something out of like a movie. It's just black and fucking no lights. It looks terrible. So,
Yeah, that's crazy.
yeah, they're saying it could last a couple more weeks, which is not good. So,
Well, Montana was on fire like all year, wasn't it? So, the West has been burning up, man. Shoot.
yeah.
So, yeah, everybody who's out there, definitely thoughts and prayers and stay safe,
Yeah. So I guess in like a little bit of weird news, do you hear about this porn star that like killed herself?
No.
So what's her name? August Ames. It looks like she committed suicide after refusing to do a scene with an actor who appeared in gay porn. She like tweeted this shit out, and then all of a sudden, she got a lot of backlash for it, and yeah, she like offed herself. It's just like awful.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is awful.
So,
Well, who was it?
what was her name? Ames. August Ames.
Oh, really? She's a pretty big actress.
Yeah, she's like a big time name. So,
The name's, yeah, that's like ringing a bell.
yeah. So.
Man, how tragic.
Yeah, it's like just very like ick. So I hate to even I hate that shit. So.
Yeah.
She
23 years old.
23,
Holy cow.
Yeah, just gone, I mean, not to condemn anybody's career choices, whatever, but, fuck. You gotta be careful what you put on social media. I'm not saying it's her fault or anything, but, like...
No, sure.
If you don't agree with something, if you're gonna put it out there, expect to get some, people are gonna have a different opinion, so... It must have been...
Yeah, found dead after cyberbullying. Holy crap.
That's something you just don't want to hear about. So,
Most definitely. I guess hopefully the family and friends and everybody can find a way to move forward.
Yeah.
And people who are bullied, find someone to turn to, because that's just tragic.
Yeah, it's not good shit. It's just not good at all. So President Trump recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel yesterday.
Yeah.
That is like huge news. So they're gonna move the what do you call it? The embassy to Jerusalem. I think it's in Tel Aviv now, right? So
I believe so. Yeah.
I think that causes a lot of issues on a lot of different fronts. So where in Israel, in Jerusalem, it's like the Mecca for what, 2 or 3 big religions, right? Like
yeah, minimally Islam and it's probably 3: Christianity, Judaism, and Islam.
Yeah, so like, people go on the pilgrimages to Jerusalem. That's a big thing. So for him to call it recognize, like, I think Israel recognizes it as the capital. But so for the U.S. to do that, that's a big deal. So,
well, I think it had been international policy not to,
right?
Like not just U.S. but like global world powers just did not recognize it as part of some accord from, I think it was 1967.
And it was to keep this kind of problem at bay. So,
right. I guess pretty soon we'll go back to that early 90s greeting of peace in the Middle East. Right. I don't know if you're old enough to remember that, but that's something we used to say.
Yeah, peace in the Middle East. Yeah. So, this, when me and you did our election show last year, this is one thing that I talked about, in my opinion, about President Trump, was I thought it would be great for the economy for 2 years, and then, after the economy started to grow back, okay, so now he's still the president for 2 more years. And these are the things I was kind of like, I'm not worried about him, but I kind of concerned, if that makes sense. So the economy's on the rise. We have more job, what do you call it? The unemployment rate's down. So we have these issues, and now he has to deal with these real, what I would call real world issues. These kind of things. The North Korea.
Well, global, like beyond our borders, kind of thing.
And that he has to take part in as the president. So North Korea, this Jerusalem thing. Those.
Yeah, we might pull out of the Olympics because of the North Korea stuff.
Yeah. Excuse me. But yeah. So, and we'll talk about that in a second. But
I didn't mean to jump the gun.
So I think that this is the thing that I'm concerned about. But I think the thing that helps him is that he's kind of surrounded himself with politicians and people that are ready for this to go down, and hopefully he heeds their advice.
Yeah, he's surrounded himself with them, but does he listen to them?
Right. Now that's the key.
You know what I mean?
Yep. I agree.
Because you can have all the brilliant people in the world sitting at the table around you, but if you fail to take into account all the brilliant things they say, then they're doing you no good.
Right. So, and I think a great example of this is where I work, this building that I work in. I work in a federal government building, and the guy that's in charge of this office that I'm in, he's brand new to supervision. So he never supervised before in his life, and he was I think he was an 11, a GS 11, and then they made him a 13, and all of a sudden he's supervising 54 people.
Oh wow!
Most people in your mind, when you think about that, if you've worked for the federal government or any kind of management position, if you go from supervising nobody and having no experience to supervising an entire office and being in charge of shitloads of things, that can be quite a transition and a heavy load to take. And most people would advise against it. Let's get you a couple of years of mid-level management with some supervision. So I've watched this manager. He hasn't done a terrible job, but I've watched him struggle. But he is surrounded by people that have loads and loads of experience. And the problem with this manager is that he does not heed the advice of his co-counsel, I guess is what you would say. He takes.
Right, he doesn't lean on any of the experience.
No, he'll make it they'll say something. We'll go to advise him about something. He's like, I already made my mind up. We're not doing that. I'm just like, and so I see the frustration, not just in myself, but in these other people. And it's like, what are you gonna fucking do? Fuck, this guy's in charge. So, and it's he made a decision several months ago that now has come back and bit him in the ass really bad. And actually, his career is probably done. He's been, without giving away shitloads of details. So he got the equivalent of getting written up, and then for 3 years, his pay is suspended. He can't get a promotion. So he can't get what's called a step increase for 3 years.
Oh, damn.
Because of his decisions. Yeah, and it was a poor decision, and then he told the wrong person that they didn't have any power over him. So, it's just when he said it, I was in this room with him, and I was like, oh, I know that. I know I heard that wrong, right? I looked at the person next to me and be like, I know he didn't say that, right? He didn't say that shit. So
it's not a very diplomatic way to do things.
So when you get to that level, anybody, and this is advice for anybody that's wanting to climb any kind of ladder, whether it be federal government or the corporation, once you get past the mid-level management and you're in charge of a lot of things, you have to play both sides. You have to play the work side and the political side, no matter what kind of game you're in. There's going to be some kind of politics and ass rubbing and kissing that you got to do. You can't just blow everybody down. That's just not how it works. So
no, there's give and take in negotiation, but I think that that hard line stance that he's taken is one of the things that we've seen go wrong with Congress, and why so little's been done over the years to include Obama's presidency. The Republicans and Democrats are hard lining one another and not working together.
Right. that
So I
bipartisan.
think
You
that's kind
gotta
of
like.
politics as usual right now. It's unfortunate. We need bridge builders there, and we don't see any in the building.
Yeah, my advice is stretch out the hand across the party line, and maybe not be so. I'm a, like so, and I need to take that advice myself. Like I've had to learn over my career. I'm a very brash person. I like a question. I like an answer. It's not always that's not always the predicament, like the situation. Like sometimes it's not just a straight line. Sometimes it's a very curvy road, and there's obstacles that you have to navigate along the way, versus just like jumping over it all and coming to a conclusion. So, but yeah, that's in my advice in my very few years at high level management. This is that would be my advice is. Take into account all sides and take a step back before we make rash decisions. So
yeah, sounds like practical advice.
Yeah, like decisions at that level not only affect a lot of people. I guess that's the best way to put it. It's instead of affecting just a few people, it affects he's making decisions that affect hundreds of people. So.
Right.
Anyways, enough of that shit. So, what about you hear about Danny Masterson?
I did. The ranch will not be the same without Hyde on there. Rooster on that particular show.
Know, fucking Hyde, man. What the hell? Like, so this is like a show from my generation that I grew up with. I'm a huge
that 70s
show. Like, I love that shit. I've seen every episode. A couple times thanks to Netflix. But Netflix, I guess they're not taking any chances, man. As soon as the rape allegations came out, they wrote him out of the show. So.
Yeah. Well, I think they're moving more towards that, no second chances, that hard line on it.
Right.
And it's unfortunate if somebody's falsely accused of something, because then they're going to have to prove their innocence and come back and, essentially Hollywood chances of getting rehired back on that show probably very slim at this point, because they'll do something with the character or move the character off in some fashion.
Yeah. So it's and then I guess they've decided on Kevin Spacey being written out of House of Cards, and Claire will be the new focus of the show, which is his wife in the show. If you go back and watch the original House of Cards, which was a British show, they're kind of following in line with what's like how that will be. I have a feeling how I know it will go.
Yeah, they just killed the male off on that show, right? The male lead got killed off, and then the female took the front of became the lead.
Right. So, and I think that's just so I don't think that it's not like a drastic thing. I think it was coming to this anyways, but I just fucking hate to hear this kind of shit because I like Danny Masterson, I like Kevin Spacey. They're both great actors in my opinion. I just hate to hear these kinds of things that have happened to them. So, not that I condone it or like say it's okay or anything like that.
Well, and that's the thing too. I think that we often forget, like the characters people play are the characters that they play. So we like these guys who entertain us and play these likable characters, or this unlikable character who you like because of the persona they play it with. But the reality is that's not who those cats are in real life. And,
right.
Sometimes we forget because we get caught up in, the glitz and glamour of Hollywood and what they put up, on the screen in front of us.
Right.
So obviously those dudes, obviously Kevin Spacey hasn't been a very good dude in real life. I know Masterson, I guess the stuff is still a little more up in the air, so I won't speak very definitively on that. But we can say Kevin Spacey hasn't been, the most upstanding character, in his private life.
Right. Oh, I agree. So, yeah, it just sucks to see that. So I like The Ranch. The Ranch is a good show.
Yeah, I like it too. And, it still has good casts. Sam Elliott, Ashton Kutcher.
Yeah. A lot of the people from 70s Show are on the show.
Yeah, Fez. I forget Fez's real name.
Yeah.
But Fez is on there.
In this season, I think it's the season coming up, they're writing in Mila Kunis. She's going to be in the show. So.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense that she's got, kids and is married to Ashton Kutcher.
Yeah.
So
they're writing her into the show. So maybe that's who like Masterson will get replaced with. Is she will become a dominant character in that show or something. So.
Right.
So, and the other big news, Disney and Fox are looking to merge, which is fucking craziness. So I think Fox is the parent company of Pixar, or not Pixar. What's the other one?
I don't know. There's Sony Studios does cartoons, Pixar and Disney. I don't know. I can't think of the other big. Nickelodeon's big.
They did the like Ants movie. So I can't. Miramar Pictures.
DreamWorks.
So I think Fox owns DreamWorks, which is like.
Okay.
So if they merge, they'll be like a monopoly on the kids movies of like digital pixel work. So.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, because Disney already owns Disney and Pixar.
Right.
But you would still. I mean, they still have Sony Studios or Sony Pictures does some kids stuff. I think Ice Age is one of theirs. Nickelodeon does some.
Paramount owns, the one about like Ice Age and shit. So.
Okay.
But yeah. It's a big merger. Like that's a lot of money you're talking about.
But that would be a big merger.
Absolutely, yeah. So, and Disney is like rides a hard line about Disney movies on Netflix. So you don't see a whole lot of Disney movies on Netflix because of that. Because Disney has their own like streaming service. That's
recent though, right?
It's in the last year and a half. You're starting to see the Disney movies fall off the Netflix thing.
Because they initially were contracted for Marvel and Disney to be on Netflix.
Right.
They were like, why give them the money that we can just make on our own kind of thing.
Right. So I would look to see, Fox movies in the next few years move off of Netflix as well. And I've heard rumors that with that merger that they will make a big stand for another streaming service like Netflix, because Fox has a plethora of, movies to put into, something like that. So.
Sure. Well, and really any major studio, Warner Brothers, Paramount, any of those, they all really would have enough.
Yeah, they have a huge
content,
library of movies.
To launch something.
It'll be nice, I think, to have a rival. Like, Hulu, to me, is not really a rival of Netflix. Hulu is more like TV versus movies, like content-wise.
Definitely content.
Yeah, the nice thing about if Netflix gets a big, like, competition is... So, like, every 6 months for as long as I can remember, my Netflix subscription has got more and more expensive. So I used to pay, when it first came out, I was paying like $2.99. I think now I'm up to like $25.99 a month for Netflix.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so it'll be nice to watch, and it's about to go up again. I just got an email the other day; it's going up another $1. So it'll be nice to have some competition. Maybe it'll drive the price back down. So.
Yeah, I think though the reason that it's going up isn't necessarily that as much as the amount of original shows they're producing and movies.
I'm sure. Like
you know what I mean? And they're spending a ton. Yeah.
So let's talk about the Olympics, man. So a couple things: the Russians have been banned from the 18 Winter Olympics in in South Korea.
What's the rationale for the banning?
The doping scandals.
Oh. Okay. They've been doping for generations, but
yeah. So the Olympic Committee has come down and banned them from the 18 Olympics, and possibly now I heard today from the next Summer Olympics too. The Winter Olympics is a big deal for Russia because that's where they shine. They're usually a contender for top medals, like winning a lot of medals. So it's a big deal.
They get a lot of winter in Russia, so they should be good. They should be good at those sports.
That's right. They get a lot of win. Yeah, I hear you. And on top of that, Nikki Haley, who is the UN ambassador, she's from your state there.
She's South Carolina, yeah.
Fucking bitch. She's a crazy bitch. So
is she?
I
don't know. I liked her when she was a governor.
I did not. I think she makes poor decisions now. I think though her role as a UN ambassador is a better role for her. So I think she's done a good job there.
Okay.
The U.S. may skip the Olympics due to tensions with North Korea. So because they're being held in South Korea. I saw a big picture of some athlete, some huge Winter Olympic athlete from the States. I knew her name when I read it, but she's saying that she's going to, if she wins a medal, she's going to give anti-Trump speeches. So that's you don't want to hear that kind of stuff, Fuck.
That's not a good sign for nationalism.
No, not a good sign at all.
But imagine an Olympics without Russia or the U.S. Like, how bizarre would that be?
Right. So I think it's happened before, during I think several years ago, like many years ago. We're talking like 50, 60 years ago. I think the U.S. didn't go to one of the Olympics or something like that. So
I don't know. I mean, we even participated against Nazis back when they, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it was during the what do you call it, the armistice or treaty during the Olympics during World War II. So, it'll be interesting to see how that works. I'm kind of thinking that we're gonna go to the Olympics, based on the fact that
I would think so.
So weird not for us not to be there. So.
Well, and the amount of just money and time and energy that the athletes and the sponsors and everybody have put into something that only comes around every 4 years.
It would be interesting, too, because I've seen... Where was I at the other day? I was out somewhere, and I saw... It was a big picture, like a big cardboard cutout of this figure skater. With, it was some American, and it was future... or hopeful Olympic ice skater, So this money's already been spent, basically, These people are going... so this was at a restaurant, I think, so... But, yeah.
Well, for those athletes, man, their window to win medals is just so small. I mean, they're basically start around, teenage years, and if they're lucky, they're still in the same sport by 28 or something. You know what I mean? Now you take an Olympic off the plate.
Yeah, like a 25-year-old, that's an old Olympian,
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, you're talking about, people's potential only Olympic.
Right. I mean,
that's a lot to take away from somebody.
Yeah, Phelps is just him being in. Was he in 3 Olympics? He's a freak of nature.
I don't know. He was in 4 or 5. Man, as a proud Marylander, I should know all of that kind of thing.
But I guess as a dominating force, he was one big one, he won a bunch of medals. The second one he won less, and the third one he won even less. So you can he was an old Olympian when he was done. So and he's not even 30 years old.
I think he's in his 30s now.
Yeah.
But he also has 28 medals, and 23 of them are gold.
Nobody will do that. Not during my lifetime. That won't happen again. It might happen again after I'm dead, but not right now.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's highly.
So it looks like he started in 04 and went through 2016. So 04, 08, 12, and 16. So four Olympics. Yeah. So, he's 32.
32.
Yep.
Old man.
And that's considered old. You know what I mean?
Definitely. So the other big news is Vladimir Putin is going to run for president again in Russia. So he's announced his candidacy to run again. I can't remember. They have different terms. I think they're 8-year terms versus the 4-year term
not sure.
in the U.S. I'm pretty sure that's how it is.
I'm shocked and appalled that he would run for office again.
You're shocked and appalled?
No, that was sarcasm.
I'm about to say, that man's going to be in charge.
He's gonna die in office, man. What are you talking about?
That man, I fully expect that man to be running 2/3 of the world before I'm dead. So, I'll make that prediction right now. So, he is a force to be reckoned with. I mean, nobody else. You don't see anybody else on the back of a tiger shirtless, running through the woods.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Man's eating bear hearts naked in the woods by himself. So, he's a bad motherfucker. So,
yeah, former KGB, right?
Former KGB. He's I don't remember how it goes. I remember we talked about it during the election podcast, but there's a picture of him and Bill Clinton, and I can't remember which one's real young and which one was a little older. I think it was a young Bill Clinton shakes the hand of Vladimir Putin, who was a KGB agent at the time. So I think that's how the picture goes.
So it looks like terms are 6 years for the president of Russia.
There you go.
Yep. They used to be 4, and in 2008 they moved them to 6.
That's right. He got it voted to make it longer. That's right.
That's right.
I don't know how I forgot about that. So yeah, that's right. He enacted a law to make him longer because he is coming to the end of his term.
That's right.
So
imagine that.
Like I said, the man is going to rule the world one day. So
I think he'd be happy to do that.
I think so too. I just think it's going to happen. So let's move to sports. Take us to sports and tell us about that.
All right, what do you want me to tell you about it?
Just start talking to me.
Should we talk about the Monday Night Football game where Ryan Shazier, when he was making a tackle, somehow compressed his spine?
No, you know what? I want to start with your boy, Gronk. What the fuck is up?
My boy Gronk.
He needs to go to anger.
Hey, man. Right, that was a sure sign that some anger management would be useful for Gronk. So some woosah.
But that was abnormal behavior for him because I've never seen him act out like that, right?
That was at least as far as in-game antics, that was unusual. It seems like we never, at least that I can recall, never seen him take a shot that significantly after the whistle.
So as an anti-Patriot person, as a Patriot football person, I will say that about I've never seen Gronk act so stupid before. And it was flagrant as fuck. It was not oops. It was plays over, 2 seconds.
Yeah, I don't know how he thought he was going to get away with it. In fact, I'm glad you mentioned that because that was what started Mike Mitchell's rant about Juju Smith and George Iloka
Yeah.
from the Bengals, where basically they got the same kind of suspension. It was just a fine or something. And they were he was how is that the same as what they did, kind of thing. So, I don't know.
The Saints will beat the Falcons tonight?
They have been the better team all season. It's in Atlanta, so you never know for sure. But, the Saints have looked really good. So I would say...
Yeah, they're 9-3. I think they're
more likely than not.
Yeah.
But the Falcons are at home and need to win to have any shot potentially to be in the playoffs. So that's a lot. That's a lot in Atlanta's favor. But I just look at the Saints and I'm how is Atlanta's defense really going to stop the Saints? Because the Saints have a two-headed monster at running back. Plus, we all know Drew Brees can throw the ball around. So, what are they going to take away from him? Essentially, for Atlanta to win, in my opinion, they have to be able to win a shootout. And the Saints defense has played much better this year than in the past seasons. So I don't know that Atlanta's capable of winning a shootout with them.
So, and then my Cowboys, they beat up the Redskins, right? Didn't who they beat?
They did. They finally gave the ball to Alfred Morris quite a bit.
How about that? So, and then how about this idiot, the head coach of the Giants, who fucking benches Eli Manning? How the fuck do you bench Eli Manning? What the fuck is wrong with you? And then you get fired.
Well, that was like Trump on Twitter, man. It's what are you thinking? Sometimes you just got to know. And what he just went about it wrong. I understand they wanted to see that young guy. But Eli Manning is in hot pursuit of Brett Favre's all-time game started record. He's never missed a game. So he was 60 games behind or something. I mean, he may never have caught that because that's 4 more seasons or something in the NFL to get to that many games.
Right.
But you don't sit the guy down just to sit the guy down. What you tell the guy is, if one of these games is out of hand, we're going to pull you and put a young guy in.
Right.
So play well enough to where the game doesn't get out of hand. Yeah, and when a game gets out of hand, then you
leave it in his hands. Then it's not.
Yeah.
Then it's not. We're having this bonehead coach get fired over fucking benching. They fired him and the GM over that shit.
Well, yeah, the writing was on the wall for both of them anyway. They've got like
all
2
they
wins.
needed was an excuse, and that was the excuse they needed.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I firmly believe, no matter what the owners say, that the owners knew that was the plan, and they misjudged their audience, man. They didn't realize that Eli Manning, for whatever reason, they didn't realize that he had the kind of respect he has for records and for the game of football, and that he wouldn't be like, okay, I'll start, and then you can pull me right out so I can keep a streak alive.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think maybe they should have known their own quarterback better than that. He's only been there like 13 years.
Right.
So I think they just misjudged his character for whatever reason.
Well, and then they lost. They turned around and lost to the Giants, right? Or not the Giants. I guess they won against the Bills the other day. So.
Oh, the Giants?
No, the Patriots.
Oh,
they beat the
Bills
the other day. So.
Yeah, the Patriots did.
I have not been like crazily impressed with what's his face this year though.
Who, Tom Brady?
Yeah, he's not having.
Dude, he's 40 and he's leading the league in passing.
Is he leading the league in passing? I thought he was.
Yeah. No, he is.
Either way, I just had they hyped him up so much, like he was this going to be this awesome player again this year. And
he is an awesome player. He's having the greatest season ever for a 40-year-old.
For a 40-year-old, okay.
I mean, that's a pretty big deal, man.
He needs to go the fuck on already.
I mean, not as big as Rafael Palmeiro being 53 and talking about a baseball comeback, but it's still a big deal.
I saw that today. So.
I mean, it does stand to reason.
They are 10.
If a guy's 40 years old and leading the NFL in passing, a guy could be 50 years old and swing a baseball bat.
Maybe.
There's a lot less contact in that sport, especially in the American League where you could be a DH right. And all you have to do is hit, And I'm not saying Palmeiro is going to successfully come back, but he was always a good hitter. So, you never know. Minimally, he can have a minor league contract and make some publicity money.
Right. So
it's a fun story.
It is a cool story. I think if I've had to pick a Super Bowl winner right now, I would probably have to go with the Vikings or the Eagles. So.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly on the Vikings right now. The Eagles went out to Seattle and kind of laid an egg, so I'm interested to see how they play against the Rams this weekend.
I agree.
Before I think make a determination.
I think they bounce back, and I think they hammer the. But
they have looked like really good teams, and definitely the class of the NFC. Although the NFC's, everybody's looking tough. We were talking about how the Saints look earlier.
Yeah.
In fact, I feel like the NFC looks tougher than the AFC, and probably whoever comes out of the NFC is going to be favored to win the Super Bowl.
The Rams and the Eagles will be a good game because the Rams lead their division, right? Aren't they like 9-3 or 8-4 or something like that?
They're 9-3, I think.
Yeah, so they're not a walkover team either. So I think that'll be a good game.
Yeah, no, they're tough. And Sean McVay, who was the Washington Redskins offensive coordinator last year, has gone out to LA and just really turned the Rams around.
Right.
Doesn't say much for Jeff Fisher and his staff because the Rams are significantly better with McVay, who's like a wonder kid. I think he's the youngest NFL head coach ever. So it speaks highly of what McVay has done. But you look at this team, and basically Case Keenum, who's quarterback in the Vikings, and they're 10-2, and Jared Goff, who was the number 1 overall pick and is quarterback in the Rams, who are 9-3. Both of those quarterbacks were on the Rams last year, and I think they won like 4 games or something. So it's pretty crazy that you look at those 2 quarterbacks and the success they're having this season, and you say, well, really, what's different besides coaching?
If I had to pick like a sleeper team to come out and win it, I'd have to go with the Steelers. So
the Steelers?
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna miss Shazier, man. They're gonna miss him.
I still think they got a good team. So
they have a real good team. I don't debate that.
Either that or Tennessee, if Tennessee makes the playoffs.
Tennessee's offense is too inconsistent for me.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They'd have to get their shit together and come up with probably 4 big wins in a row.
I mean, Jacksonville, if Blake Bortles can play a decent game, is capable of beating anybody because their defense is incredible. and they've got Leonard Fournette, who seems to be able to run the hell out of the football. They got good blocking, young receivers. The thing is, Blake Bortles tends to be a turnover machine when it gets hot and heavy.
I don't see Dallas making the playoffs this year. So
no, you don't think you guys are on the table?
no, I don't think so. I think we got 2 more losses waiting for us.
Yeah. Well, you got what, two more games without Zeke, and then when Zeke comes back, you guys have Seattle, and I don't remember who you closed the season out against.
We play the Eagles at the end of the year, so.
Okay, that's the last game.
Yeah, so I think we'll lose to Seattle and the Eagles. I think we can beat the Giants and the Raiders, but not Seattle and the Eagles. So.
You don't think? I don't know, man. You guys will have Zeke back.
Well, it's
the Seahawks are a depleted team. They're missing, significant contributors. There's no Cam Chancellor.
If they win the rest of their games, maybe we make a wild card. Because we're no way.
That's what I think. At 10, if you guys win out, you guys go 10-6.
Yeah. So
and I would think with the pass rush, because DeMarcus Lawrence is leading the league in sacks, and with Zeke Elliott on the offense, you guys would probably be a scary out in the playoffs.
Well, we got to beat the Eagles, at the end of the season. So, and they're the team to beat. I think them and the Vikings right now. So.
Yeah, I don't dispute that. But I think you guys had the right kind of team, especially with Zeke in the lineup, to be able to beat the Eagles. Because you can play a ball control offense and not let their offense be on the field for taking advantage of the defensive weaknesses.
Think clock management, if we will be the key in that game. Score and then control the football. So.
Right.
It'll be good to have Zeke back though. I think it's a bunch of horseshit what happened to him. So.
Yeah. Well, in hindsight, he should have just took the suspension way earlier in the year.
Right. Yeah, fair enough. But beating the Redskins without Zeke's a big deal. So.
Yeah.
And they beat them handedly. It was not a shabby game. They scored what? We scored almost 40 points, 38, I think.
Yeah, it's like 30 something to 16, I think it was. 34 to 16, maybe.
38-14. That was the score.
38-14.
So good game. Let's see. So let's move over to college before we run out of time here. Lots of big news in college. So the last time that we spoke was before the big. It was like the end of the season. Yeah,
I told you Alabama was going to get in there, man.
This is what's wrong, and I ranted about this on Twitter. This is what's fucking wrong about college football right now. There's not enough fucking games for the playoffs.
Yeah, they just need a bigger playoff.
And then Nick Saban had the fucking audacity to get on ESPN and talk about how he went and talked to those people and made a case for Alabama getting back in the playoffs. Motherfucker, shut your fucking mouth and don't say shit like that. Because it just gets me fucking fired up. So.
That's his job. He's their coach.
No, I think that those people should be sequestered and not be allowed to get talked to. Because that kind of shit should not go on. So.
They don't have to listen to him.
I bet he slipped him some money. I bet so. I'll bet you there was some money exchange.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
I do. So.
If that's true, they could have just called Urban Meyer up and been like, Urban, Nick's coming in with this figure. What do you got? Because Ohio State's got a lot of money, too.
This is true. So, Mississippi State got hit with a bunch of shit. I think it was was it Ole Miss? A bunch of fines.
I think Ole Miss. Yeah, I think Ole Miss. And then they got some players who are transferring.
Yeah, because they're not, they're suspended from being bowl eligible, which is a fucking goddamn. I hate to hear that kind of shit. So, and Georgia had Auburn's
don't piss off the NCAA.
To Auburn's credit, though, Auburn was missing some key players, and they just beat the ever-living dog shit out of Georgia a couple weeks ago. So, I'm not happy with that game. So,
no. It doesn't matter that they beat the dog shit out of them because it's when you win the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they lost. They lost the most important one.
I still will think that Auburn is a better team than Georgia. So, but they're missing.
If you were to put their full team out there, maybe they would have been. But in a one-game system, that's like saying that Duke's a better team than whatever number 12 seed that beats them. You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
How many years did Duke go out early in the NCAA's? And everybody knows they're
for going out early.
So yeah,
notorious for it.
So
I think the other big I was just disappointed that Ohio State did not beat Wisconsin better than they did. So
you mean that they did beat them?
No, I was disappointed that they didn't beat them more.
That they didn't pile it on.
So I really think that to me that seems that Wisconsin it maybe is the real deal. So, and I think they should be in the playoffs, Wisconsin. So they lost one game to Ohio State, and Ohio State's beaten good teams this year. So I think they should be in the playoffs and not Alabama.
But they lost the last game to them, man.
They're 12-1. They're 12-1. You know, we got other.
So
teams
they didn't win their. They have a weak schedule, and they didn't win their conference.
I disagree. So it doesn't matter though. Now you have the cheating Alabama boys.
You're right.
The cheating dogs that are in there, and Oklahoma and Clemson. Clemson's gonna win it. So that's what's gonna happen.
I'm pulling for Oklahoma to win it, actually, even though I live in South Carolina.
They're going out first, man. That's just they've been.
I think they're gonna beat Georgia, man. Baker Mayfield, boy, he's no joke.
That is a fucking farce. So,
dude, they got 3 wins over top 10 teams.
I agree. I want them to beat Georgia because I can't stand them, but they're not going to beat them. So.
I don't know. They went to Columbus and they spanked Ohio State, and I know it was early in the year, but they still went there and spanked them on their field.
Fair enough. So we'll see how it goes. So Alabama, of course, is going to play Clemson in a rematch, and then Oklahoma will play Georgia. So what a fuck, and that's the other thing about the playoffs that I don't like. So it's 4 teams, and there's all these other bowl games going on, and I could give Olivia. I don't give a fuck about them anymore because of the playoffs now. So I think more this to and they said that bowl attendance and bowl watching has gone down because of that shit. So I think that this is more ammo to have more teams in the playoffs. So if you're a money grubbing whore, this is the way you do it. So
yeah, maybe, I don't know. I mean, I'm a money grubbing whore, and I haven't done it.
You're also not making money off the bowl games either. So.
True enough.
So let's hear you pick. Let's go back to the NFL. So I guess you're not ready to pick an NFL Super Bowl winner yet.
No. But if I were to pick the teams I think will play each other, I think it's the Vikings and the Patriots right now. Because I think the Steelers are going to miss Shazier significantly. And I think the Patriots will end up winning that game next week and have home field advantage. And I just don't see Pittsburgh winning in New England without one of their better defenders. But that's all dependent upon Tom Brady's Achilles and his staying healthy at 40 years old and nothing changing from where it sits right now. I think the Vikings, with their defense and they're a well-rounded team, as long as Case Keenum stays and plays under control the way he has been all season, that they look like the best all-around team. So right now I would say Patriots and Vikings. And yeah, I'd like to pick the Vikings to win, but the Patriots would probably get them because they have Belichick and Brady.
Cheating Belichick and cheating Brady. Let's get it right. So.
No. So, yeah, you can say that if you want. They go out on the field and win games, man.
Damn truth. You cannot deny them bastards are cheaters. So.
Hey, somebody, and I don't remember who it was, but they said if you're not cheating, you're not trying. And I think there's some truth to that statement.
Oh my god. Oh my goodness. So back to college. So Alabama didn't win their division, and they're in the playoffs. So
they had a much tougher schedule, and they have basically the same record.
I disagree. They didn't play as many games either. So
they're 11-1.
Yeah, everybody else is 12 and something though.
No, everybody else isn't.
Yeah, they're 12. Clemson's 12-1. Oklahoma's 12-1. Georgia's 12-1, and Wisconsin's 12-1.
Because they got into their conference title games.
Point and take. That's right. There you go. Should not be there. But it doesn't fucking matter there. So fucked up. Whole fucking thing is fucked.
I disagree. I do think it's crazy that Clemson and Alabama play each other for the third consecutive year, though, in the playoffs.
Well, it reminds me of the old Florida State fucking thing. You know how they're in the Rose Bowl for years after.
Well, and remember Miami Notre Dame was always a big thing back in the day.
Yep. So Clemson had Miami's number. God damn, they whooped their ass.
It's just it's just a measuring stick, man. Miami's that new kid on the block. At this point, they've been down for a while.
You know, they got what's his face from Georgia, the
Mark Richt.
Mark Richt, and he's an alumnus from Miami. So,
good coach, good recruiter.
Mm-hmm. It's good to see Miami be a good team again. So.
Speaking of that, man, what'd you think of Jimbo Fisher leaving for Texas A&M from Florida State for a $75 million contract?
Money talks.
Did you see that?
Money talks.
It does. I find it hard to believe he couldn't have just gone back to Florida State and said, "Hey, A&M's throwing $75 million at me. What can you do?"
I think he was looking for a reason to leave. So.
Yeah, maybe so. I think he's going to find that it's harder to win in the SEC West than it is to win in the ACC Coastal.
I think so too. I think he has a tough road ahead of him. So.
Yep.
And they're not bowl eligible. I think it's Mississippi State, right?
No, he went to Texas A&M.
Oh, Texas A&M, that's right.
Yeah.
Florida State, man, since Bobby left, it's been a rough road. So it's like they're good, and then they can't. Then it's like they can't follow up with it. They'll get a bunch of good wins, and then they lose to nobody.
The last couple of years, they've been a really solid team. They just have struggled to get past Clemson in that ACC title game. But when they had famous Jameis there, they won a national title.
Yeah, this is true. So, like I said, it's just it seems like there's just not a lot of consistency there. I mean, they're not even in the top 25. So.
Well, they lost their quarterback like the first game of the season too.
Yeah, recruiting, it's important. So. I think you'll see UCF, the biggest. I think they're the biggest college in the U.S. University of Central Florida, like number wise. I think that you will see them try to have a better schedule next year. I mean, they went 12-0 this year, they're a fantastic football team.
Wasn't that Scott Frost's team though? Yeah. Scott Frost is leaving and going to Nebraska.
Yep. So, but I still think you'll see them try to move. They'll try to get a tougher schedule next year because I mean they're like Boise State a couple years ago, where Boise State went undefeated and they didn't get recognized for it. They went undefeated for like 3 years in a row and didn't get recognized for it. So
right. So strength of schedule always comes into play, and they're not in a tough enough conference.
They're not. So, and I don't think they'll move conferences. I think that what you'll see is they'll try to take some money because I don't know if people know that or not. Like you basically, if you want to play Alabama or Georgia, you have to pay them to play. Literally, the school.
They pay some. They pay some other schools though, like those small schools they play. It's like Marist and schools like that.
Yeah,
they pay them millions of bucks to play them.
Yeah, they do. So, and it's the same thing. Like if they want to get on a schedule with Alabama and Georgia, you'll see them dish out the money to do it. So
yeah, pay to play.
So I think that I watched a big thing on ESPN the other day about it. I think they're going to move to get into a tougher schedule because I think they have the stuff to do it, and they look fantastic. They just haven't been tested very well. So
right.
And I'd like to see them play a decent. So they beat the shit out of Memphis, who is supposedly a really good team. The same with USF. Like, they're a really good team, too. Just an underrated team. And they don't have a schedule.
Florida Atlantic with Lane Kiffin actually had a pretty decent season, too, and they won their conference.
Yep. So, the big test, I think, though, for them is they're going to get to play Auburn in their bowl game. So, that will be an interesting game. So.
Yeah. Be interesting if Lane Kiffin beats them. I mean, he has coached at Tennessee and USC. He's got some coaching pedigree. And his father's his defensive coordinator, Monty Kiffin, was the Tampa 2 designer for that defense in Tampa Bay when they were going to Super Bowl.
Lane Kiffin is the UCF coach? Is that what you said?
No, Florida Atlantic.
Florida Atlantic coach. Yeah, that's right. So.
Yeah.
So UCF is going to play Auburn, and that will be.
UCF. Okay.
Yeah, I think that after that game, they'll be able to decide if they want to play with the big boys next year. So, if they beat the shit out of Auburn, like that'll be a big statement for when the top 25 comes out next year. So,
I think just if they could just beat Auburn, that's what I would be saying if I was them. Because I don't think anybody's really going to spank Auburn. Their guys are all going to pretty much be healthy by the time that bowl game rolls around.
And Auburn will be looking for blood. So
yeah.
So I think Oklahoma's going to lose to Georgia. I think Clemson will beat Alabama, and then I think Clemson will beat Georgia. So.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma's going to win that game, man.
Okay, so make your prediction. What's going to happen?
I like Oklahoma to win everything. I like Oklahoma to beat Georgia. Then I think Clemson will lose to Alabama, and then Oklahoma will beat Alabama.
Okay, cool, good stuff. Good stuff.
That's my thinking. So Alabama pulls the upset. Oklahoma, who's number 2, wins, and they should be favored to win since it's a 2 versus a 3, and they're the 2. And then I think Oklahoma will beat Alabama for the title.
If Oklahoma had to play Clemson, not that it's not going to happen. Who do you think would win in that game?
I think Clemson would probably manage to get them, but I think that Alabama will upset Clemson for Oklahoma, and then kind of clear the path to Oklahoma winning.
We shall see. One of those games, are they in January?
Oh yeah, normally like January. I think January 1st and then January
so New Year's
8th or something like that
is the Alabama Georgia game. And then,
yeah, that's both those games are the same day.
Are they?
And then then they play again. I think a week later. I think that's the schedule. You pull it up real quick.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, isn't it they both play on the 1st and they play at the title like a week later?
Yeah.
Or the Sunday after or something.
Yeah. So let's see here. Let's go down the bottom. January 8th is the championship game, and then the 1st is Michigan plays Carolina, UCF plays Auburn, Notre Dame plays LSU, and then Georgia and Oklahoma, Alabama and Clemson.
I miss the days when they all the games were on the 1st. Do you remember that?
Yes, like there was like fucking 20 fucking bowl games on.
They're all at the same time. You just were flipping between the ones you wanted to watch.
Commercial came on, go to the next game. Commercial came on, go back to the other game. So.
I miss that.
So now the deal is, though, there's starting on basically the 19th all the way to the 1st, there's games every day. So.
Yeah. I think, is the Holiday Bowl like the very first one? Maybe not. It used to be like one of the first ones.
Boca Raton Bowl. Akron's going to play Florida Atlantic. So.
Oh, there's Lane Kiffin's team.
Yeah. So they're in the... God damn. You want to go to the bowl game? Fucking tickets they're only $263 a piece. So,
wow. It's like going to an NFL game.
That's really not that bad if you think about it. So the playoff game. But so if you want to go to the championship game, they're $1,500 for the cheap seats. So God damn.
Yep, that's not cheap.
$1,500 for the fucking nosebleeds. $7,000 if you want to sit close. I can get a better view on my TV.
Right.
Well, that looks about like our time for today. You want to talk about anything else before we get out of here?
What did you think about the state of the NFL and Mark Cuban coming out about
So
the
I
NFL?
didn't
And
hear anything about this. You have to tell me about this.
so yeah, so Mark Cuban has a quote. Let me pull up the quote exactly, so I don't misquote Cuban. So Mark Cuban said, "What do you want your kids to play? Do you want him to get healthy from running the court, or do you want to watch him play football and worry about collisions?" And he's talking about concussions, and he was
Uh-huh.
talking about Ryan Shazier, who actually had back surgery today, may never play football again. And I don't want to sound too drastic, but I guess the potential's there that he doesn't even walk again. You know what I mean?
Right.
Following, just an attempted tackle, I guess he hit his head awkwardly on the guy's thigh, and it compacted something in his spine. And so hopefully he's okay. But I mean, what do you think of the state of the future of football? So
Um.
Cuban said that, and then Mike Mitchell said, from the Steelers, what about how football was a man sport, and what did they want to do? Just give everybody flags. So, it's a lot of craziness.
I think football will continue like how it is now.
Yeah, I think it will too, but it's been trending downward. You know what I mean? So do you think that it continues to trend downward, or do you think it
I
kind of
think
levels off?
I think the big four always are on a rotation. When we've talked
Yeah,
about this before. So
yeah,
basketball is
yeah.
the number one sport in the country right now. Um,
It's the fastest growing sport with the like the youngest followers.
yeah.
So it speaks to it spiking and moving towards the top and staying at the top, probably for at least a generation, typically, which is a 5 to 10 year window.
Right. So when I was coming up, it was always I think football was the NFL was on the rise and baseball was on the decline. So it was the baseball was huge when I was coming up, and then I saw the NFL rise, and then now we're seeing the NBA on the big comeback. So
Yeah, and when I was a kid, the NBA was on top. The Magic and
yeah,
Larry,
yeah,
like Boston and LA, East West Coast rivalry, and then you had Jordan with my Chicago Bulls.
right.
And basketball kind of ran things, for probably the 80s into the 90s, and then around the late 90s, the NFL kind of jumped them.
Yeah. So, and it's there was probably a big competition between baseball and basketball during the early '90s because of like the Bulls, and then when the Bulls dynasty broke up, you had what do you call it?
Well, there was that 2 year window in the mid 90s when to play baseball for the Chicago White Sox minor
Right,
league team.
and then you had like the Blazers, and then you had LA pick up. So, and then at the same time, though, in baseball, you had the Atlanta Braves, who had the unstoppable pitching staff. And they were people like exciting things. They like watching that shit. That was like some of my best memories. When I lived in Atlanta for a couple years, and I went to a couple of the Braves games. I watched Glavine and Maddox and Avery and Smoltz all pitch, and I
Yeah,
watched
well,
Deion Sanders hit a home run. I was at the game. He hit a home run, and then on Sunday he fucking scored a touchdown for the Dallas Cowboys. Like, that's fucking incredible. Like, who the fuck does that? Like, you hit a home run and
yeah.
score a touchdown in the same week. So,
No, Bo Jackson used to do that kind of stuff too.
yeah, yeah. So,
But yeah, those guys are pretty rare. So, and teams like that, like those Atlanta teams and like the Yankees teams and the Red Sox
right,
teams, those kind of teams are good because people either love to cheer them on or they love to hate them. You know what I
right,
mean?
right, right.
So they're good for the sport because people are going to tune in to either watch them win or to watch them lose.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I'm still a huge Braves fan. And I like Detroit too for baseball. But I don't know. There'll probably never be a team like that stacked again. I mean, you had Tom Glavine and Greg Maddux, who are fucking like, goddamn, they won every Cy Young award for fucking forever. I think Tom Glavine or Greg Maddux had like 7 Cy Young awards before he left. Like,
Yeah.
Jesus.
Well, what
Christ.
they did, they grew them right because they had
Yeah,
like
they were like
Kevin
nobodies.
Millwood, Tom
Yeah.
Glavine, Steve Avery,
Millwood,
and those
yeah.
other guys, and then they brought Greg Maddux over from I think he was on the Cubs.
Yeah, he was a Cubbies, yeah.
So I mean they had a great rotation. Were able to add Greg Maddux, and then after that, I think they added Tim Hudson. I mean, so
Yeah.
they did a nice job at growing their own, and then bringing in talented starters to supplement their own guys.
Yeah, I mean, at
You
one
know,
point they had like John.
let's not
Rocker
forget
and
John
shit.
Smoltz either, because John Smoltz was a monster too.
Yeah, him and Smoltz, and then they had Rocker as a close. Like Rocker, of course, the fucking
Yeah.
infamous like flips off
Before he went off the rails.
It's just a fucking fireball that as long as he could keep it. That was the thing about Rocker. Like as long as he could maintain his composure, he was amazing. You get that dude excited, and he fucking just fell off to the side. So. But,
I'll never. What was it? The Mets were throwing like batteries at the dude when he came out to pitch.
right. So and that's the thing. Like it's the same thing in any sport. There's like people that you love, and then there's people that you love to hate. So.
Yeah.
So. I think the NFL though. Back to your question, I think you'll see it like it's just not going to be the dominant sport anymore, and I think that you will see.
Well, they made like $14 billion this year.
Yeah, that's fine. But I don't think
because they're going to pay Roger.
I think Roger's time is over. I think,
they just renewed him, man. 5 years, $200 million.
Yeah, I do, but I personally think it's time for him to go away. So, he's made a lot of controversial issues become controversial because of who he is. So he needs to.
Well, he's done what the owners wanted, and the owners were allowed to have him be that watchdog, man. Because remember, everybody talked about that. They talked about like the way the players were acting and out of control and all that stuff when Tagliabue was leaving and Roger was coming in. So the owners asked him to do this stuff, but then when he does shit that some of the owners don't like, specifically Jerry Jones, then it's an issue.
Just okay, yeah, okay. So.
Well, Jerry did. I'm not saying I agreed with the Zeke suspension. In fact, I was very fortunate that I was able to pick up some guys and have depth on my fantasy football team because Zeke Elliott is on there and he's suspended. But yeah, so I don't agree with that suspension. And I thought 6 games for something that a guy was never even like officially charged for.
No evidence.
None. Was really kind of crazy and a significant suspension that altered the course of the Cowboys season. But other than that, I think that and his extension speaks to this. He's done what the owners wanted, and one of the things they wanted was him to grow the NFL brand. I think when he took over, the NFL was like a couple $1 billion industry, and now they're making like 14 a year. You know what I mean?
I agree. He's grown the NFL as a brand. So
their TV contracts and all those things, which is what I believe he was hired to do those things, and that's what he's done. So.
Well, and I think it's time for him to step aside. So.
Well, that's not going to happen for like 5 years.
Yeah, it probably won't happen. In fact, he'll probably get another extension. So.
The crazy thing I heard though is the lawyer who he used to negotiate his contract works for the same firm as the lawyers who represent the NFL.
That seems like a conflict of interest, right?
Yeah, you would think so, right? Like that. So but that is what it is. But that seems bizarre to me that his lawyer would happen to work for the same firm as the firm that represents the NFL, who the contract's negotiated with.
Right. I agree.
So seems.
All right. Well, that's our time. We need to get out of here. Thanks for watching, guys. Catch us up. You can catch the replay on all your fucking favorite podcast apps. We're on the iTunes Store, in the Google Play Store. Thanks for all the love. I think I got an email from Stacy. We won't have anything going on the week of Christmas, so we're all off. But other than that, we'll be here. We have our Christmas party stream on the 20th. We're going to give away a crap load of stuff, so make sure you tune in for that. Any closing words or thoughts there, Bo?
Anybody who prays or believes in any of that kind of stuff, throw some of those out for Ryan Shazier of the Steelers. Again, he did have a back surgery today, and the severity of his injury is really kind of unknown. Could potentially never even walk again, much less play football. So you never like to see those things happen. And I am not a Steelers fan at all. So, just for the sake of humanity, hope for him to be okay. And everybody take it easy out there.
Yeah, our
We
thoughts
live
and
in a
prayers
wild
goes
world,
out to the people in LA. So you guys stay safe out there.
Yeah. Yep.
So think for your motherfucking self, question everything, guys, and we will see you next week.
Yep. Take it easy.